Good morning and welcome back. I am your host, Amelie Starchild, and I will be with you for the next hour and a half as we cruise the universe, asking the question, who am I? It's a valid question. We ask it every day. We ask it orally. It's almost like an oral meditation for me. As I hook together from the outside, speaking it out loud is kind of doing it from the outside. It's not really doing it from the outside, but it's spinning it in reality. When the thoughts just roll around in your head, we all have these infinitely huge thoughts all the time. All of us do. But unless we attach them to a reality, they stay in the ethers, if you will. And this oral meditation that I do is kind of my exercise in bringing my innermost thoughts out to the outside, connecting them together, talking about them as though they're real, discussing these things, adding them up. There's a purpose to it. I believe that the woes of mankind pretty much come from people misusing the equipment. Now, it's the first time I ever quite said it like that, at least, to start off the day. Usually I say it more in a thesis kind of way. I think that the woes of mankind are caused by us not knowing who we are, and the nature of the medium that we're swimming in, and the rules of the game, the laws of the universe. We're purported to be taught those laws in the confines of our religions, and then they're very personal and private and almost secret because nobody talks about, nobody swaps. Well, what do you believe, Stan? And then if you do start a conversation like that, it's just to argue as opposed to add each other up. Oh, that's interesting. I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay, I get it. Because we're all adding this all up. This is not an exercise of exclusion. There is no exclusion in this universe of attraction, in this universe of addition. There is no subtraction in this universe of addition. However, you do not have to subtract the things that you do not like in order to shift away from them, both personally for you and from the planet at large. Because we all want to shift away from the troubles that humanity might be considered to be suffering. Things like, there's a lot of things people just, they aren't thinking about solving them because they think that's just the way it is. And it is not just the way it is. It's just that way because we've chosen it. We're focusing that way. The momentum has gone that way. Our understanding, this and then this and then this, and then now that it's that way, but it doesn't have to be that way. We do not have to live in a world where there is world poverty, where we struggle in war, where we suffer as we watch our millennial children who are easygoing, easygoing, beautiful, bright, but watch them struggle in an economy of apparent lack, as in the flow of the currency is not as abundant and easygoing as it should be. And one of the reasons is the nature of our economic system, what our money is based on, what is the value that our money is based on, largely the petrodollar. And there's a scarcity of energy. And that's why it's really valuable. And the fact is, we need a shot in the arm. We need an energy boost in order to allow abundance to flow to all of us, including, the less ambitious. I don't care whether everybody's ambitious. I don't think everybody should be or needs to be ambitious. But we live in a world where people are, I think it'd be a lot easier for everybody at all times if they would understand how it worked. And if all of us was working it correctly, then oh my gosh, what we could be doing with this as a group is pretty stunning to imagine. I need to imagine this right into a novel or something so people could see it, but it would be nice to preamble all of this with a methodology so that when people read the book, they even understand, oh, I can see how we could have gotten there. Through this better understanding of who we are and how the equipment works. And for my part, at least, my ambition is to discuss this from a fairly dispassionate, matter-of-fact, friendly, informal, non-resistant kind of way. We're not resisting anybody. As a matter of fact, I'm pushing back against nobody because ultimately my position is there is no us and them. Human beings did it all. We are all one being. We need to cooperate with ourselves, or by definition, we've got some kind of an autoimmune disorder. Now, it is true, there are facts on the ground. You can't actually trust your fellow human beings as much as I wish you could. I think that if you play it close to your own vest and trust people as far as you can trust them and don't worry about not trusting them where you can't trust them. So there's a scene in Les Miserables, and it's pretty early on. I went and watched the movie. It was pretty excruciating, I'll tell you. It was very long, and the politics of it by the end get very confusing. I think French politics at the time did get rather confusing, as people had to think, the ideas that they were chasing and such after the revolution. I think this was in the early 1800s when Les Miserables. But Jean Valjean steals a bunch of stuff from a abbey or some kind of a religious order, and then later when the bad guy, whatever his name is, catches him with all the goods and brings him up in front of the abbot says, "Oh no, we gave him that stuff," and the guy has to let him go. Actually, it might be a different cop who catches him, because if the other cop had caught him, it wouldn't have mattered that he hadn't. The one who knew him. I can't remember what his name was. In any case, it changed him. That whole scene, you watch that whole scene, it changed him. He ended up, the police leave, and he can't leave with all the goods. He ends up giving it all back to the abbot, and he changes in that moment from being a sniveling, fearful, self-centered. You want to be selfishly motivated, as Abraham points out, but you don't want to be self-centered without the accounting of the field around you. So the selfishly oriented, or the selfishly motivated, that's what she says, I think. No, she doesn't say motivated. Anyway, she promotes being selfish, and she's not wrong about that. But the way that makes the selfishness all right is that you include the rest of the group in your general calculations. Don't worry about the specific, just do it in spirit. Know that you're one with the rest of the group, and whenever you're looking for a solution, you're always looking for a win-win-win-win position. It changes everything, because the win-win position is where your inner being is standing. She's not just looking out for you, although she is way looking out for you. She's looking out for all of us because she's standing in the win-win position, that place where, ooh, I win. And you want to win for the world. You want the world to be full of winners. Trump isn't wrong about his fixation on winners. His problem is he sees it as a zero-sum game, a win-lose proposition, and so he feels that it is just a given that we have to have losers. It's one of those things I was saying that is just so wrong, that we have thought all the time. We don't think in terms of solving this because we think that's just the way it is. Oh, humanity just engages forever and ever in cruel, destructive wars. There's just nothing you can do about that. Bullshit. That is absolutely not our natural state. And we don't have to be in that. As a matter of fact, you don't want to be in that. So right now, the wars that we rage are looking like an autoimmune disorder. At some point, the little skirmishes that pop up here and there will look more like an immune system instead of an autoimmune disorder. It will be those of us reaching out to whoever has, whoever is kind of on the rumble strip, and pull them back to the body of humanity. Remind them of who they are, and ourselves again of who we are. If we want to make it to ultimate sustainability, especially since the people will not quit having babies, the populations are growing. And you can't, my husband in the past has sort of jokingly, referred to, maybe we need another war. He doesn't mean it. Of course he doesn't mean it. But thinking of war and pestilence as a means of population control, that's it. We don't want to do it that way. We do not want to control our population that way. I'll tell you how we want to control the population. In a way, we don't want to worry about it so much. We want to let the people who really want to have children, we want to let them have children. I don't care if you really love children and you want to have children and society supports you and your children, the opportunities and the understandings underlaying of who we are and how it works and our systems are functioning well. Go ahead and have all the children you want. And if you do not want to have children, if you accidentally got pregnant, you do not mean to do this, you do not want them, you don't get along with children, you don't see that in your future. If you want to go have a clean, safe abortion at a reasonably early time in the situation, God bless. We don't want you to have that child. By the way, you should also be allowed to have that abortion if there's something seriously wrong with the child. Or something that would be seriously wrong with you, like your life was threatened, then even in later stages, those should be allowed. But very early on, women, as soon as they have realized that they are pregnant, they should be able to make the decision right then if it's early, and then just do it. So all of the children that are coming into the world, every single one of them is wanted, for one thing. We want that. Now, the reason I had my children, because I really didn't want children, and I had an abortion before. Sorry, I didn't mean to let that slip to the outside world, but it was legal at the time in the place that I was, and I was not in a good position to be having a child. I'm not sorry I didn't have that child. All children are blessed, and I might wistfully say a loving prayer and kiss the little forehead of the little zygote, because it was just a tiny little gob, very, very early on, maybe less than the size of a single peanut, not in the shell, but just the peanut inside. Maybe not even that size. Yeah, maybe that size. The father wanted them so badly. He wanted them so badly. He wanted children. That was all he wanted in life. And so they were wanted. And my maternal instincts are very strong. And as the hormones, I was kind of ambiguous at first. Well, okay, let's do this. All right. But then my maternal love, and they became what the most important thing in my life. And so I was about to say, maybe not, some people may not realize that they want children. And if they're forced to have them, then, maybe they'll discover that. But I forgot, my children were extremely wanted. They were so passionately wanted by half of the equation that it made up for me at the time. And later I realized he was right. And they have been the biggest blessing that my life has ever known. And of course, as all children are, the biggest headache, the biggest worry. It's because your heart is walking around the earth, and you don't have any control over it. You don't have, your heart could be, slashed. They can drown in a bucket, when they're really, really young. You have to get them up to a certain age, and then they're pretty sturdy. Although, children, you can lose your children. I know people who have lost children, one less than younger than 20, I think, and the other one less than 25. And they're my age, and it's a sad thing. What am I getting at? When you're under the throes of the hormones of your mammalian mind and being guided by Source to care for the little one that is in your purview, that the one that is in your responsibility, to help it learn, to help it understand its environment, to help it understand itself and how to be in this world and how to function and how to succeed. Now, unfortunately, at the time when my children were younger, I did not know myself the answers to these questions. And so now I have partnered with them as adults as we collectively come to understand who we are, how this universe works, what are the laws of the universe. They let me bounce stuff back off of them, and one of them very actively through the last, I would say, 7 years. We started our partnership in 2017. We started into a financial partnership with a business that we were starting to develop, and that didn't come to anything. But you know what? Neither one of us dwell even 1 second thinking about that as being a failure. It was just a step on the road, and we have grown and grown and grown and grown and grown in the process. And now we're standing in places where it's like, oh, I can see the bigger picture from here. I have a better understanding of who I am and how this works. And what are the laws of the universe? What are the rules? And we go over those in this show. It's part of what we're talking about. Who am I? We're talking about it in reference to source energy. And yes, that is kind of what some people in some contexts would call the G word. But we don't talk about it like that. And we don't talk about it in sacred tones. Although you can so understand what these sacred tones are all about. They are, some of those holy, sacred, when you feel that sensation of the Holy Spirit, say you're in a cathedral or you're, wherever it is that kind of, that, I'm talking about the sacred tones that are taken in religion, where everybody's very somber and very serious about what they're looking at and what they're thinking about. Yes, I can see the absolute value of that. When you feel that tone, you can kind of feel the connection to the allness. But you don't actually, you can do this in your thought. We can do this in thought without the sacred tones. We're going to do it in a matter-of-fact kind of way. We're going to abstract out from the bones of the skeleton of the situation around us and just look at the relevant moving parts at the center, that little nugget that we all share, that part of it that's common between you and me. And then all the other stuff isn't common between you and me. It's the ethnic and regional and temporal color put on by the individual circumstances and foods and flavors and fashions of the the time I'm in. That's what the differences are. There's a sameness between us that is important. It's the who we are of the equation. It's the matrix itself. The matrix, the divine matrix that connects us all, is really a very, very cool thing. And yes, it is kind of like the religions have suspected. It is love. Love is the organizing force. That when we organize with that as an element that is added to the equation, then everything lines up with everything else, or can find its way. Love is the secret. Love is the secret sauce. And you can just hold that as a general understanding without having any clue as to how to add that into your life. As a matter of fact, your life's journey is going to be you figuring out how to add that into every equation. You know, how to bring it to the equation if it doesn't happen to be there. Well, what I would suggest is you focus on the love within yourself, and you never, ever, ever, ever leave that, and let the conditions as they come at you take care of themselves, you know. Just, now I understand that you don't always feel like you want to be connected to that soft place in yourself. I totally understand that. We have an energetic side of ourselves, that negative, powerful negative side of ourselves. There's a lot of energy over there, and there's a lot of, the dark side is reflecting the truth in a way, it's reflecting the truth almost as clearly as the powerful positive side, and I'm going to tell you how. It's sort of like the way a photograph, the negative of a photograph, contains all the information of the positive of the photograph. As a matter of fact, they're created at the same time. So that negative energy that we got going on, we want to understand our negative self so that we can experience our negative self, come back to who we are, recognize what we learned in the journey, and then looking forward, join with one another in cooperative components to just move in the direction of where we want to go. And all of the drama of the crossing and misunderstanding what the negative side is and running with it too far, letting it take over the scenery, you know, it satisfies something in our dramatic heart. But it really would be helpful if we wanted to set up human systems for the future in harmony with who we really are and how it really works, so that we can achieve a state of mutual abundance, efficiency, community, connection, beauty, recreation, fun, distribution, supply stream. You know, I'm just kind of throwing all the words out like a word salad. You know, toss that word salad together. What am I saying? I'm saying that we are one being on this planet, and we need to understand ourselves that way. And we don't need to micromanage this immediately. We need to just generally sit with this and understand that that's who we are and that's where we're going. And that is certainly not who we are being. It is very obvious that that is not who we are being, and you don't have to shake me and say, face reality. No, I see what our reality is. I get it. But we're not supposed to be facing reality. We're supposed to be creating reality, using this jumping off point of the reality we've got in this moment. Is just exactly like the analogy of the road and the driver and the destination and the where you are in this moment, and, you know, looking forward the 200 yards or so that you can see, with the idea in your head, you know where you're going. You know, you're heading for San Diego. And where are you now? You're in Needles. Needles, California, and you're looking around going, man, it's a wasteland around here. It's hot. Look at this road. And the next thing you know, you've slowed to a crawl, and you're just staring at the pebbles on the road and looking around you and going, man, it's hot. I don't like where I am. Look at all the details of where I am. And if you do that, you're going to forget that you're going somewhere. You're actually in motion. We are beings in motion. And we're not just supposed to be sitting where we are. And so the whole idea is not to just stare in a fixated way at the material particulars of what we've got on the ground. The idea, you're supposed to keep in mind that we're heading for San Diego. Remember that. If you don't have the windshield of your car in the floorboards, you have it in front of you because you're casting your eyes in front of you, and you're using the road to because if you take your eyes completely off the road and just start daydreaming about San Diego, you're off in the cactus, you know. But there's a rumble strip on the side of the road that says that if you hit it, it's saying, warning, warning. And what is that rumble strip? It's your negative emotion. Because actually your default setting is positive. Your positive self is who you really are. It's the eternal one of you. The negative side of you is your temporary self. It's only your temporary self, and it's being created by our misunderstanding of our emotions, of our equipment, of our misunderstanding who we are. You know? I talk a lot about who we are. I talk mostly about who we are. Sometimes I talk about where we might have come from, because I do think that one of the reasons why we don't automatically understand ourselves is that we really did not incrementally come to our wisdom over eons and eons and eons of time. That we are transplants from another planet. Although when you look at our DNA, you can see, oh, we absolutely fit in on the planet. We came from the planet. Geneticists will tell you, yes, we're connected to all, we're connected to bananas and chimpanzees and toadstools, and we are connected to the DNA of this planet. So we are not exactly aliens. But we have, I believe, an alien-initiated tweak within our DNA that has created our neocortex, or at least plumped it up from where it was. Plumped it up. And that's in human chromosome number 2. And I show people, now I don't know whether I really, do I want to, I guess I've said it. So here, human chromosome number 2. Here's the neocortex, and this is the layer of mind that makes you human. Your logic, analysis, your higher reasoning, your overview mind, control of your emotions, morality, language, all of the things that we consider human as opposed to the animal, comes from largely your neocortex layer of mind. Now, some of your emotions are coming from your lower brain. Your mammalian brain is giving you maternal love and anxiety, fear, jealousy. Lower emotions, anger. Your negative self is actually born in the mammalian brain. Your neocortex gives you a layer of overmind that can help you oversee what your lower mind is pinging you to. So your as we became human beings, we did not trade in our lower mind systems. We still have those, and they are still functioning to help us interpret the knee-jerk interpret the world around us like an animal would. You see somebody and you just bolt in fear. It's a knee-jerk response. Your overview mind might allow you to say, well, I know that all humans are trouble, and my knee jerk is to run from trouble, but that particular someone, I feel I've seen them over and over and over and over and over, and I've come to trust them. And my reasoning mind can over what's the word? It's such a simple word. I don't know. It's a simple word, but I'm not going to spend the morning trying to find it. It really doesn't matter. So here we have our neocortex brain, which is 76% of this supposedly comes from human chromosome number 2. I get this information from Greg Brayton. Been to 4 of his, is it 4 or is it 3 conferences of his? It doesn't matter. This is one of his slides. And you can see the information here. You can see the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, USA, volume 88, pages, I went and tried to find it. You can find that over at pnas.org. And when you find that volume, that article, that it was published in October 15th. It's the second, there's two volumes published that year. I don't know if it's 2 volumes every year, but that year it was 2 volumes, and it's the one that was published on October 15th. And those page numbers are not all that easy. You actually have to read the articles. And read the names of the articles. This one is the 40th article in that volume. Origin of human chromosome number 2 and ancestral telomere to telomere fusion. And if you look at the whole abstract, it's pretty shocking. But, this kind of rests in the back of an obscure scientific journal read only by other scientists, and really not much done with this. Except for Greg talks about it. He does not talk about it as baldly as I do. He's got a reputation to protect, and I do not. I can just spitball. I'm doing a different thing here. Stream of consciousness. We're just in non-resistance. Are we talking about the world? But here, look, it says, we conclude that what we've been talking about is the relic of an ancient telomere to telomere fusion and marks the point at which 2 ancestral ape chromosomes fused to give rise to human chromosome number 2. Now, I believe that this is the imprint, the leftover of the genetic modification that was done to us some 200,000 years ago. Whenever our regular anthropologists claim that anatomically modern humans, whenever they appeared, I think that something like this is what made them appear. It would explain a lot of things about how human beings just can't really quite... We act as though we're a domesticated species that has escaped its, it doesn't actually have a regular environment now because it's a domesticated species, and has been released out on some sort of natural environment and is running around and destroying things without understanding, like the pigs in Hawaii and stuff. Now, ultimately, everything will shift, but it'll take a long time for all the things around to shift, and I think that one of the reasons why we don't automatically understand is because we did not develop over millions of years, slowly, that we kind of had a little bump, and then somewhere along the way we lost the user's manual, if anyone ever gave it to us. And in actual fact, there might be a lot of ways that a user's manual could appear. Like every religion, in a way, is a user's manual. And as long as it is focused on the spirit being the key to success, the key to the way we organize, the spirit being the key to the way we organize, not this social structure that we call this religion or this church. It's the spirit. The spirit is the key to our organizational power. And because the spirit is the force of this center, of this pull of this spin, the original spin, this pull of the shared point, I call it. That's what I call love. It's the pull. All of us feel it. And when we organize along those lines, we find ourselves in win-win patterns. It's because it's the pull, all of us are pulling to that same place. It's pulling to that point in your own inner being where your success meshes with other success. I will organize with the rest of the world at some point in a beautiful and graceful and really, really, really satisfying way with the most fun, best people doing the coolest things upon this planet. Someday I will. I have no idea who they are or what that's going to look like. But until then, I'm not going to try to do anything. I'm just going to do my thing, which is sit in my studio, do my 1.5 to 2 hour oral meditation every day as I pull all of my thoughts together, integrate my wholeness in public for everybody to see as I discuss source energy in this matter-of-fact tone, pulling out, abstracting the mathematical. It's like some people, their job is to take these realities and cloak them in poetry and art and song. And I so feel that. I so get you. God bless you. Buddha bless you, or whatever. Source bless you. God bless you. Whatever. It's all valid. Spirit bless you. However, my calling, I have felt it to be the opposite, to go into these places of this exquisite, joyous, connected, artsy, loving feelings, and abstract, take all the soul out of it and just abstract the nugget of mathematics out of the center of it and go, well, generally speaking, this is the skeletal heart of it that connects us all. But the reason I think it's going to be effective is because the answer from that point is then you find in your own blessed, authentic, different way, your way to connect to this, because it's not that I don't get those deeply connected, loving, artful, beautiful spirits that come over me. I absolutely do. And as a matter of fact, it's my recognition of how this is at the heart of all that brings me to this space. I do understand the heartfelt side of it, but it's sort of been my inclination to extract from it the bones, the mathematical bones of it. Who are we? I'm going to boil it all the way down to spin. It is all spin, all of appearance of all things. It's simply spin. And the reason I bring it up that way is because you can use this information. You can use all the information that I give you in order to help you magically make your life better, more peaceful, more effective, more powerfully connected to the rest of the world. You at the center of an organizing hub of joyous, that following your bliss thing, it's an organizational force. That's what it is. And spirit is an organizational force. And when you organize on the wings of the right vibration, you bring all the rest of the matrix into your field as a cooperative component to your own ventures. And that's why, so you want to be selfishly motivated and selfishly oriented, but your selfishness includes the rest of the field as part of yourself. We're all going to win here. And see, because what you don't want to do is sacrifice yourself for the whole. That does not color the situation the direction you want it to go. That does not create diversity. It does not vector the change in the direction you want it to go. Here, I got to get back to, ooh, I like this one. It's going to start getting cool here pretty soon, and I'm going to start showing my naturescapes that have coldness in them, because I like that feeling of hibernation as the world gets a little slower in the winter. I like that. I also love it when spring starts warming everything up and I start feeling summer just around the corner and life starting to surge again. I love that too. I love all of it. And my favorite one is probably right September and October, because oh my gosh, around here it is just so graceful and charming and beautiful. It doesn't rain quite enough, but because of that, every afternoon on the patio is like a glorious blessing. And the temperatures have been like so nice, maybe a little warm in the afternoons. I don't know. I've felt warm. I haven't looked at the forecast, so I don't really know how warm it has been. 80s probably. But for a lot of the day, it's 60s and 70s. It's so nice. So nice. The wind does not blow this time of year much. You get lucky and have an occasional rainstorm in September. Certainly right around the 1st of October, we're likely to have some rain. Last year we didn't. It was the first balloon fiesta in the longest time that I saw no. There was at least 1 or 2 mornings that was affected by wind. But anyway, I digress. Who am I? Who am I? What is this show I do? What is the nature of my inner being? This vibrational aspect of my cosmic anatomy that is relating to me, that is connected to me, that I am anchored in, actually. And the little me that I see myself as is an extension of this greater source energy that I am anchored in. That is why I have 2 spins. The spin I come out of, and then the individual spin that I have control of. And in actual fact, they need to be in alignment with one another. If they are not, I am like a car whose wheels are out of alignment, or whose engine, whose twin carburetors are not tuned to one another and is going down the road going or another analogy is you're like a car with the parking brake on, you know. That's not, it's kind of like that too, but it's all of those things, because you are these 2 points of spin, 2 spinning points of attraction. And the source side of you is so attracting to you and your life and experience in an expansive way all things good. They're just coming to you. Well-being is raining down around you because you are abiding in this system of, if everybody would mind their own business and without pushing back against everybody else, would find what they wanted in this world and then go for it. Now, the problem is we've got to interact with one another. We are organizing with one another. So you can't just go off on your own. You have to work it out with the creatures around you. But if everybody understood that this was supposed to be fun, I'm actually not your enemy, that my real self has a good humor about this, my real self recognizes that I am not this problem, and that we can all, that Source has answered our asking for a solution. And now the only job left to do is get into the right spirit so that ideas about it can occur to you. You can have impulses that might guide you over to that person that has the answer, because Source knows where all the answers are, knows what you want, knows what you're looking for. If we would all get clear about who we are and what we're about, we could easily solve our problems, create wonderful systems, live joyful, playful, abundant lives on this beautiful, beautiful, abundant, playful planet. But we need to look at it that way. We need to not look at it so seriously. If you look at it truly, the value of seeing Abraham's point, she says, really, there's nothing serious going on here. The value of taking that perspective is that it lightens everything up. And you might say, well, how can you say that there's nothing serious going on here? I have a child, and something terrible could happen to that child, and then my whole world would end. And I would say to that mother, then we have made your world too small to begin with. You should be sitting in a place where no matter what happens to you, you revel in the sacred beauty and your connection to this joyful, abundant world that we are all co-creating and that we're all a part of. And that you think with poignant melancholy for a moment, sadness for a moment, and then gratitude, and then you take forevermore this joyful place in your heart, your gratitude for having known that blessed little child. If for, obviously, but we teach our children things like, there is nothing that matters more than the material world. The material world is primary. You only get one life, so you better hold on to it no matter what. The point of life, the object of the exercise is survival. So the whole idea is you survive at all costs, and somehow that attitude of yours, because all other beings have that same attitude, that's what makes life strong. Well, I'm going to disagree with all of that, because I don't think that that's what makes life strong. I think in its own way, it's as wrong as Hitler's was. Hitler's idea that nations had to be, that there were better people and lesser people, for one thing. There were ones that were worth more and others that were worth less, and some that were worth nothing at all. They were a pestilence, and if we eliminated all of those, the world would be a better place. He thought that the nations had to be in constant conflict with one another as they were tussling with, in order to sort out who was the strongest and who was worthy of living. He had all kinds of really rotten ideas up at the core, up at the top levels of his operating system. And then he believed in his negative emotion side, locked onto the physical conditions outside, had no reflective capability whatsoever. He was like a vampire, no reflection, cannot see himself, cannot see anything, not self-reflective at all. And then his nation, who did not understand these things, did not understand the powerful negative possibility ready to descend upon them, and they elected this. Now, at first, it wasn't so much an election, but the last public election, is that what you call it? That's not what you call it. You don't call it a public election. That's stupid, because you don't have private elections. The last election, free and fair, I don't know if it was free and fair. The last one that they had, the Nazis got like 38%. But there was a moment where if they had an election, they would have reelected Hitler by a landslide. they would have reelected Hitler. There was a moment where they absolutely would have done that. And so you have to blame the German people for all of this. But the German people are just people. And so you have to blame ourselves for this. Blame people for this. People did this. It wasn't just Hitler. People did not understand the power of the dark side, the negative power of the dark side. And they elected someone who was an us and them candidate who said, this is a zero-sum game. The situation is win-lose. It's a finite pie, and we need our piece. What other things did he say? And they believed it. The us and them is a big one, though, because there is no us and them. The actual villain, the enemy, is the polarity itself within the structure of the human morphogenetic field. That when we polarize against each other, that's what causes us to go to war with one another, and that can be seen as like an autoimmune disorder. It's definitely going to look like that when the earth is completely inhabited by 10 billion people. Anytime big groups go to war with one another, that's an autoimmune disorder. And world war, heaven forbid, that's suicide. That's us killing ourselves. And the whole thing is, we don't have to do this. It's a simple shift in our mindset will set us all back on a much more harmonious course with one another. If you understand who we really are and that we really are the love, even the rotten ones are actually still the love. And what they are showing us all, the others in the human field around you are your unknown self made visible. Elon Musk is our unknown self made visible. Kim Jong-un, Hitler, all of these people are our unknown self made visible. And what they are is illustrations of the examples of what you get, the product of the crossing your energy field, misunderstanding who we are, misunderstanding the field and the rules and source energy, and getting your primary assumptions up at the top of your operating system skewed, or perhaps the object of the exercise, you've got it off. Maybe you're looking at a zero-sum game. You're not taking into consideration the rest of the field. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That's what all of our problems are. They're just that. And so if we could come to a place in a matter-of-fact place where it's non-threatening, I don't mean to take anybody's religion away, because everybody's religion in their way is trying to, it's feeling some of this out. You can feel it. I actually, every time I see another church built, I smile, because I think they're never going to squash this, because source really is a thing. This source energy trying to organize us. This love consciousness, this allness consciousness, this addition consciousness thing it's a real thing. It's a real thing, and it will help us. It will help us organize our systems into alignment with the field around us, in alignment with actual reality, the actual physics of actual reality. We're going to get a grip on, we're going to conquer gravity. We are close to it. I believe that the darkest ops section of our own government already know. And we might be thinking too darkly. It might be a beneficent force at the center, really, who is keeping some of these things away from us. Although the fossil fuel thing, that's not really a beneficent force helping us with that one, because had we incrementally gotten off of fossil fuels from the beginning, we'd be in a way different place. But, I said this, maybe I said it yesterday, maybe I said it day before, I don't know, something occurred to me. It's been about a century. I was yesterday because well, maybe it was yesterday. I think I mentioned Tesla. I started out saying about a century ago, and then I'm like, actually, it's more than a century ago because when J.P. Morgan realized what Tesla was actually trying to do, trying to produce a Tesla tower, which would, give free clean energy to everybody, and I'm not sure if communications were there yet because I don't know that we had radio exactly just yet, but through a Tesla tower you can have free, clean, efficient communications transfer between everybody. You could just set that up. The reason we do it the way we do it is because the people who invent certain things want to have certain specific individual compensation for it. And so there is a system of kind of bogging down the system and inefficiency in the system, if you will, while there's a tick, 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 tick that monetizes me. Someday we will not do that anymore. Our systems do not need to be monetized every frickin' step of the way. We can monetize in different ways. There are probably simpler, cleaner algorithms for allowing you to monetize just by virtue of being able to garner attention your way. That's a real thing. That's a real value in this universe. As a matter of fact, when it comes to real beings and real consciousness, focus and attention is the literal currency of the universe. And so no wonder in our human systems, isn't it interesting that getting people to look your direction, put their attention on you, becomes a monetizable activity? I find it fascinating. It's interesting. It's also what's driving a lot of the diversity of our media, which is driving the diversity of everybody's attention, which is a wonderful thing. You don't want... it's okay if everybody turns and looks at the same thing. Well, good or bad, it's okay. We can all turn and look at the same thing. What we do not want to do is turn in unison, look at the same thing, see it in a negative, and act from our negative feelings. That is what I called the World War. And that's the first time I've ever said it that way, the World War, because it was like one war. World War II was really World War I Part 2. Because World War I was never quite settled. And the energy of that not being settled, that angry, warful energy that was not subdued, that did not unconditionally surrender in the First World War, was directly the energy that fueled the Second World War. It was Hitler and all of his people that he resonated with, these people who were very, very, very clear about something that they hated and wanted to see eradicated from the world or whatever. And they wanted to organize their systems on, and they loved their Teutonic, but it was all very, it was so, that is such a fascinating thing to study from a general perspective. It was so raw. It was so naive. It was so clear in a way. Such an illustration of the offness of something and the momentum of misalignment, ultimately where it will take you if you let it go. The dark side gets so dark, you just don't even want to risk it. There's just no reason. Every rat hole is bottomless. I say that sometimes. That is one of my lines. Every rat hole is bottomless. It's why you do not want to entertain your negative mind. Your negative mind is the creator of all the evil that you see on planet Earth. Without the overview mind and its ability to go into a negative state and then run over there in that from that position, there is no devil walking the earth, not really. There can be an impersonal detachment that is not, it's sort of But all beings within a system like that are still themselves connected to source. So it's not as evil as it looks from the outside. The reason that it looks so bad to go into places in your mind, in places in your negative mind, is because you are literally going there without God. It's a godless place, literally. And it's the only place where, in the mind, is the only place where God cannot be, because he's everywhere else. And actually, God is everywhere. God is everywhere. God is everything. It's the almighty force that we're all, it's the field, it's the quantum field, it's the Plancks, and how does it work? Well, that's what every discussion every day is about. And there's a lot of places to circle around this. I see I have just passed an hour. So it's probably about 6:15. Let me look at my time. Get a time hack. 12 minutes after 6. That's not too bad. Hold on one second. For the second half of the show, I'll be back in just a moment. I will regroup and decide whether I want to start talking about the physics of it, because the physics of it really matter. All of this really matters. You put it all together and you can see a way out of the wilderness, a way out of the problems that humanity has made for himself, and into the glorious world that awaits us when we understand who we really are and how we're made and how our systems function and how our equipment functions and all of that. I believe that all of our problems are being caused by a misunderstanding of our equipment. You would think that you wouldn't have to have a specific, detailed understanding of your equipment. You're just born in the world. You should be able to just feel it and then just do it. And some people can. Some people do a good job of that. But not everybody does. There is an issue that we have. Paul Levy calls this issue witiko. It's sort of a condition of where your individual conventional self is not in alignment with what your broader perspective self knows to be true about the world. And Paul Levy himself is he's a student of quantum physics. Now, I don't know if he has embraced the vision of Nassim Haramein and the new understanding of how quantum physics relates to cosmological physics from a mathematical perspective. I don't know. I'm actually not quite sure about that. But I read a book, Quantum Revelations, I think is the name of the book. I really liked it, as a matter of fact, and it cited lots of the founding fathers of quantum physics, and related it to psychology, Jungian psychology. His claim to fame is that he had a psychologically abusive father, whose psychological abuse did not really kick in until it came time for him to individuate, to separate from his family system and become his own person. And the father was not having that. And the wickedness, the wicked way that he got the son to sort of turn away from the life force within him that was trying to help him individuate. He ended up having a psychic break. And what healed him was a combined understanding of Jungian psychology, quantum physics, and Buddhist philosophy. And he has this pet idea that it's his brand idea, I guess. I mean, that's not the right way to say that. What would you call it? His, let me get a word. The word is signature. It's his signature idea. Just like the pain body is Eckhart Tolle's signature idea. And Oh, I used to know what Gary Zukav's signature idea. Most people have a signature idea. At some point, we'll be able to boil down exactly what I have. A bunch of signature ideas: divine autonomy, addition consciousness, um, the configuration, the HBV. There's a whole lot of things I got. But his signature idea is Wetiko. Wetiko being that condition of the human mind where it is, from my perspective, it's out of alignment. You're crossing your energy stream there, because you are literally these two spinning discs of attraction that need to be in alignment with one another. One is springing out of the other one. And if you are not acting that way, if the centers are not spinning together, if they're close, I think that's good. If they're dead on, then you are spinning in perfect alignment with all cooperative components to all of your desires at all times, because all of your desires are lined up with everybody else's desires. You're in the ultimate win-win position. And you are there to consciously see it all come to fruition. I believe that that is the ultimate, the ultimate, the ultimate. Get in absolute alignment with who you really are in all subjects. Now that's harder in some subjects than others. Your physical body is a difficult one to stay in alignment with, especially since, all these gurus claim that if you stay in alignment can offer perfect healing at any given time. And so if you're struggling with any kind of a physical ailment, you feel kind of embarrassed because it's sort of like screaming to the outside world, here's somewhere where I'm not in alignment. And in actual fact, all of us have that. All of us have some place where we are not in alignment, or usually. I imagine that if you were a person who ultimately had all your momentums going in alignment, you'd be somebody like Jesus or Buddha, or somebody really knowledgeable and spectacular and special, a guru, a master walking the planet. I'm sure that that's who you'd be. You'd be a master. So who am I? Who am I? And we ask this question both individually and collectively. Who am I as a species? Who am I as a biotechnology? How does my biotechnology work? What are the laws of the universe? What are the laws of the universe? Well, Bashar will tell us that the setup of the universe, and I think he calls them laws of the universe, but I see it as more like the setup, the rules, the conditions of the universe, stuff like you exist. Get over it. Quit trying to, you exist. You are at the center of a vortex of spin. And somehow your consciousness is always going to be that you have a seat forever. You can probably diminish, you can get, I don't know if you can get smaller. I don't know. But I do know that you are at the center of a spin. And you exist, and there's nothing you can do to change that. That's what I know. You exist, there's nothing you can do to change that. Everything is here and now. There's nothing you can do to change that. The one is all, and the all are one, and the one is all. The one is all, and the all are one, or vice versa. There's nothing you can do to change that. There is a oneness in this. We are matrixed together through this energy field, through this the 0 point energy field is all the Plancks exchanging all the information up and down the scales, back and forth every Planck instant, reverberating their information from the large to the small and the small up to the large, instantaneously all the time. That's what we all are. It's what you are. And then as it does this, it winks completely out and then winks completely back in. And so at any given time, there is always the opportunity to change direction. to shift gears, because it's always going all the way out and coming all the way back in. And the only reason why it looks like the same is the focus, by virtue of your focus and attention, it is holding that into place. Now, I remember yesterday I did mention talking about how it seemed to be like I could feel the force of my father's focus and attention, the way it was acting almost like a force field, holding them in the position that they are in, and making it way more difficult to try to find your way in. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying that you could not, the cavalry could not come to his, aid. But the problem is that he himself is locked into a particular way. He has done it to himself. And you can feel the force, the energy of that focus as he is locking his position into being. The way that he gets out of that place is for his focus to soften and start imagining possibilities and be more in a creative and a compromising sort of situation where, what he requires first and foremost is X kind of a spirit. But he's got all these physical demands about what it has to be. And then he's locked his focus into what he doesn't like about where he is. And this is a very difficult force field to try to break through, especially, at his age. He's a delicate thing to be moving around anyway. And his guardian, his guard dog for the last half century, has kind of lost her mind a little bit and circles him in ever tighter loops. She's kind of creating a force field of her own that makes it's going to be very, very difficult to try to move them, even if you wanted to. And we would like to. At one point, I know my sister and I were very open to that idea, but the reality of feeling that force field and the all of the energies around that whole situation, you're like, that's not going to be easy to get through. And so we kind of all sit back in our love and our discomfort. The discomfort comes from the fact that our inner beings are never fazed by anything. And so that's a clue right there. There are, of course, going to be things that faze you. But if you could ultimately understand that your ultimate self is not fazed by anything. In other words, the ultimate situation that we're all in is okay. Whatever it is, we're all right. I see it like there's a Star Trek episode. It's in the first season. I think it's in the first season, episode 16. It's called Shore Leave, original series. And they beam down onto a planet. They're just exploring it. It doesn't appear to have any life forms. It's just all plants, beautiful plants, very idyllic looking. And as they imagine things, they start appearing. And unfortunately, the things that they are imagining some of them are fearful. And Bones gets killed. And everybody's all sad about that. Turns out he wasn't killed at all. He was pulled down to the center of the planet and repaired. And, he comes back saying, man, you would not believe what this is just the great. And they decide it's the greatest place ever. Safe. It's all perfectly safe. All the danger is perfectly safe. Die all you want. It's perfectly safe. The greatest shore leave y'all have ever had. And they leave it that way. And in a way, you could think of physicality, physical life. Our experience here is more like that than the super duper, dramatic, sad thing that everybody gives it, although there is a piece of it that's true. So although it is true that you go on and on and on and on and on and on and on, and you will inhabit many bodies, as many as you want, forever and ever. Sometimes you will join with the purely vibrational and reverberate with that for a while joyfully, and then you'll go back down into a density space of, you go back into a physical body and live that for a while and all that. And while all of that is true, this body that you are in right now, this being that you are, this individual self that you are inhabiting at this moment, she will only live this one life. And there is something a bit poignant about that. I have come to really love this person. And it is going to be a little sad. Just a little. There's something sweet about that too. So don't squander your avatar. Just because you live forever, that doesn't mean there isn't consequences to your recklessness. And the whole idea is sustainability and joy and life, and too much self-sacrifice and too much, death and such sometimes can get in the way of that. But death is a part of life, and in actual fact, no one goes anywhere. We are all part of the permanent life project here on planet Earth. You die and you're still here. You're still here because you want to be. But when you die, when you're not inhibited by a physical body, you will understand vibrationally what the whole picture is. And that it's all learning about itself, that you contributed, that you are contributing, that we're all in this together, that this is a communal project amongst all of life. It's a project to both be one and to recognize our individuality, because it is one. It all is one. And so if you turn and look in the direction where we're all one, you get there right away. It's like, oh, and now there isn't anything to do. And so what it is it's the individuation of it's the candle in the sun. If it wasn't individuated in the way that it is, its light would get lost in the wholeness of the rest of it. That's what the hide and seek aspect of the individuation, Now you see that you're all, and now you think you're just all by yourself, and now you see the whole thing, and now you think you're all by yourself. It's part of the cosmic dance, But from my perspective, here on planet Earth, I think that the object of the exercise is and should be sustainability, because really it is in question at the moment. Our sustainability is a bit in question, and there are things going on, even if ultimately we think that, Abraham believes that because we are learning, because it's expanding, because it's vibrational, because it's a done deal, you can't get away from it. We really are getting there. So there's no need to worry. But in the meantime, I want to see the world that is building an abundance of abundance instead of an abundance of lack. I want to see world poverty gone. I want to start hearing news that, new species that have never been seen before have been spotted on the Serengeti plain, or, in the bamboo forests of Mongolia, or I want to hear that kind of things. I want to hear news. I want people studying how the Great Barrier Reef is growing and re-blooming, coming back to life. I'll tell you one little story that's like this, and we should take stories like this to heart and understand that we're not here on our own as human beings. We are not here by ourselves. We are all in this together with all the rest of the biofield. And I remember about 15 years ago, 2009, that's 15 years ago, I did a talk. I took a communications class because I went back to college and I finally finished my Associate of Arts degree. I started out by going into the culinary program. I'm a good cook, and at the time I enjoyed hostessing too. It was part of what I did, part of how I channeled my daimonic energy. So I went back to school and I took this class and I did a talk on wolves. It was part of the speech that I had to do. I did have a PowerPoint presentation that goes along with it, and what I was showing is that the wolves, in a way, are a keystone species. They were reintroduced into the Yellowstone National Park area, and the effect that happened on the natural landscape everywhere was pretty spectacular. Because what happened was the wolves put the elk on the run. The elk couldn't just sit in the bottom of the riverbeds and eat all the new shoots and whatever, muck around in the river, whatever. It put them on the run, and there were a whole bunch of things that started cascading, one on top of the other, based on the way the wolves changed the behavior of everything around them. And the rivers became more, there were plants that grew back, that shaded places in the rivers, that caused the trout to do better, that caused the this and the that. It was like a cascading effect. And we should take all stories like that to heart and learn from them and co-create again this beautiful, beautiful planet. One of the problems that we have right now, though, is our fossil fuels. Two problems. We burn fossil fuels and we do not understand gravity. We have not conquered gravity. Those are the two things that I think physically we need to, that's the new can of worms I would like to open. Now, I do understand why national security, maybe 100 years ago, had a problem with free, clean energy for everybody. Because Hitler was walking the earth. Had Hitler had access to free, clean energy, he probably would not have stopped fighting that war. His soldiers on the Eastern Front would not have he would have had all the energy to do anything that he wanted to do. So maybe national security was served at the moment, but you know what? We got it. Our national security is not being served now by the way we burn fossil fuels. It's creating a carbon footprint that is strangling the planet. Our lack of understanding gravity causes us to keep, when you look at neighborhoods, the way they are designed the way they are designed because our cars have to get to us. And so the whole neighborhood is asphalted in, and structures of trees and woods and glens and we wouldn't have to do that if we could just fly to our homes. I think that it's coming. And the reason I think that it's coming is because I think the mathematics that explain what gravity is has been done. And when our general group professional physicists put their mind to this issue, they're going to be able to come up with the answer. The technology is going to save us. Technology is going to save us, and diversity is going to save us. Both of those things. And that's why it's so important to be yourself, no matter who you are, no matter how uncomfortable you might feel in the world. Make sure you feel comfortable in your own skin. And that's the most important thing. Not whether anybody out there accepts you, but whether you feel comfortable in your own skin, because that means that you are in alignment with yourself. You are not crossing your own energy stream. You are being your true, authentic self. That's what the world needs from you, what it needs from all of us. And that's what I do in this silly little show, as I sort of leave reality behind, in a way. Although I am I am a big proponent of reality, a huge proponent of reality. I would like us to face reality. Reality is this, the 5 rules of the world. Did I finish those? Number 1, you exist. Number 2, everything's here and now. Number 3, the one is all, the all are one. Number 4, what you put out is what you get back. There's nothing you can do to change that. There is no exception to that rule for anybody. And it's all running on frequencies. What you put out is what you get back. And what you put out includes you noticing things you don't like and then emitting that frequency. And you might say, but that's not my fault. They did it, I just noticed it. Well, it is your fault, because the only reason you're noticing it from that negative direction is because you're not taking a broader perspective. You're not seeing what's really happening. Now, you might be seeing what's really happening. It all depends. Where's your heart in this? Are you us and theming? Are you polarizing? Are you seeing the solution as some sort of subtraction problem? If that's the case, then you're probably on the wrong beam. So, where are we in the narrative? So I used to, in the description of the video, I used to put a links list. You can go back and find one of my older ones and you will see this links list. Now, I changed it, ironically, and then, so most of the days that you'll find this, it's actually black print on white paper. I made this links list white print on black paper now. That might be harder for you to see. And you got to pause this anyway. And none of these link to anything because it's not an actual link. It's just a picture of the links. That's all. But my links include... I'm just going to show this, not the links. We have The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. That's a movie. There's a YouTube video version of it. The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. And if you don't have my links list, then just go look it up that way. The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It on YouTube. It's free. And then we have the Connected Universe. That was a movie made in 2016. It is Nassim Haramein and his math. He published his first mathematical paper in 2012, unifying what is that sound I hear? Hold on a second. I think somebody might have just crept past my barrier outside. Anyway, so I have, these are all things that I would just recommend that you watch because it explains hold on. The other possibility is that I have critters, mice and such, get into the walls of this house. Anyway, now in the description of my video now, I've been describing my video. For the longest time, I just had this links list of things that supported my general thesis, what I'm talking about as far as, it's interesting, I don't ever have any Abraham or Bashar links. My my position is emphasizing the mathematics and the technology side of Nassim Haramein's work, but I do emphasize that, but I also I emphasize the law of attraction stuff too, the woo-woo side of it, because I see how one is, how you can see how they're both describing the same thing. You know, they agree with one another. So let's go back to that links list. Let's see, we have the origin of mass and nature of gravity video that describes the paper that's listed later, and then we have quantum revolution. That's the 12-part series over on Gaia, as Nassim explains everything from the physics of a unified universe, the fullness of space, spinning space-time, the holographic universe, what the four forces really are. He talks about the Big Bang and how cosmogenesis, how universes are created. And then he goes into consciousness, and then he talks about extraterrestrials, and then he talks about the technology of the future. That's what that 12-part series, Quantum Revolution, is. And then The Connected Universe, that's the movie that was made in 2016 about his work, narrated by Patrick Stewart, pretty good. And then there's Living in the Future's Past, and I throw this one in. It's narrated by Jeff Bridges, and it's quite good, but it shows us as a superorganism made of oil. It's a very interesting perspective. And then there's the paper, Origin, Mass, Nature of Gravity paper. And then, I don't show what this is a link to, but this is a whole bunch of papers written by Nassim Haramein. You can find them over on researchgate.net. And if you just remember that, researchgate.net, and go over and plug in Nassim Haramein, you will find a whole bunch of articles that he describes. So the mathematics has been done. And the mathematics is the roadmap to the technology of the future. The mathematics of quantum physics, such as it was, such as the amount that we figured out 100 years ago, gave us the understanding of electromagnetic fields. And that's what gave us the 20th century. But this new, fuller understanding is going to give us even more than that. It's going to give us free, clean energy everywhere, because the zero-point energy field is everywhere. And even in its resting state, that zero-point energy field has almost an infinite amount of energy. Incredibly, incredibly, incredibly energetic everywhere. So this new understanding, this new mathematics, this new physics is going to give us not only free, clean energy everywhere, but it's going to free us from gravity. I know that this is going to happen. If we don't kill ourselves first, whoever's left, this is going to happen for, because this is the truth. And the way the universe is designed, it is designed to learn. And it's learning. We are growing. It is getting better. It is getting more. And when we learn how to create true abundance and not simply grind our truffula-trees into needs. I say that a lot. If you don't understand that, that's a reference to the Lorax. That mindless, commercial desire to just churn the natural environment into commodities. We need to get over that. We need to not do that. A lot of what what a lot of communities are going to find is that their ability to survive is going to depend on how much people want to come visit them. And their being visitable is going to depend on how beautiful they keep their landscape, what kind of natural local color they can offer, a sense of place, facilities, Airbnbs, eateries, things to do. It's going to be a good thing if you can keep your ecosystem together, because people will want to come and visit it. And if all you have is a hole in the ground where you're digging up a commodity that you're selling to the rest of the world, and that's how you're getting your money, your situation is finite, because you're not going to be able to do that forever. I have now passed an hour and 35 minutes, which means I could stop anytime I wanted to now. We'll see whether I will. There's more to say. There's always more to say. Until I see the world that that I'm really looking for, there'll be more to say. The world I'm looking for is one where people more generally, just generally, you can go find your own specific, but just generally understand the general situation that you're in. We're living in a world of attraction. It's based on the law of attraction. That's the what you put out is what you get back kind of a thing. It's your antenna, your broadcasting system, and your receiver is all part of the way that you are organized in with the rest of the matrix around you. And what you put out is what you get back. It's how you're organizing, who you're resonating with, on what frequencies, to what end, what is your intentions. Or do you see it as win-win? Do you see it as win-lose? What is the object of the exercise? That's really high up on your operating system. The object of the exercise. If you think the object of the exercise is he who dies with the most toys wins, then you play the game way different than if you think the object of the exercise is to discover who I really am and bring us and to live myself the fullest, most satisfying existence that I can, creating abundance in an abundant world. If that's the object of the exercise, then that's way different. If you think the object of the exercise is to be in constant conflict with the rest of the world so that you can prove who is the strongest and who is not, then you play the game way different than if you think the object of the exercise is to understand that we're all in this together and that when we all do better, we all do better. Way different. And so it is up to each individual to sort that out. You can tell when you're in alignment because you feel lighter, you feel more joyful, you don't feel the burden of the rest of the careening, chaotic world. When you realize that it is a universe of attraction, not assertion, you realize that every attraction point on the grid, which means every individual is attracting for themselves from their own position, both connected to source on their own and with their own guidance to tell them what to do from that position, and that you can't really assert it from outside of that. And when you realize that, it can help you feel less guilty about the rest of the world, less responsible for every little thing that everybody else does. And then you realize, I can't assert from the outside, but I can influence from the inside. Abraham says, and she's correct, Those who are in alignment are more powerful than millions who are not. Because your power doesn't come from where you think it comes from. It's not an assertive thing from the outside in. It's a gentler thing. It has to do with your own alignment between you and you. No one can get in between you and you. It's one of the problems with we're finding with wanting to give Dad what he wants without really being able to give him what he wants. We need some more cooperation from him, a little more recognition of his own limitations. When you try to advise him of his own limitations, he argues with you, and you don't want to beat him over the head with it because he's 98 years old. If you believe that you're capable, I would like to encourage that. But you got to know where you're capable and where your limitations are. And I think one of the problems is that his wife is very, very OCD right now. She's on a hard loop. And it would be very, very difficult from his position to try to fend her off. And she's always telling him he's sick. And he's not sick. She's just being very imprecise about voicing his limitations. And he does have limitations. He absolutely has extreme limitations. For crying out loud, he's almost 100 years old. He's just a few months away from being 99. 3 months away? What is this? September, October, November, December. 4 months away from being 99 years old. And we'd all like to see him make it to 100. And I would love to have him nearby. I would love that. And he's got the money to pay for it. And so what's the problem? The problem is their consciousness, where it's locked into, and the force field that it is creating in this kind of would be very cosmically difficult. If I could I don't know. It would all depend on how much I really, really want to do it. But I would have to break Dad's focus the way he's got it right now. I would have to break it and get him to see some reality. And I'm not sure how realistic that is. I don't think it's going to be that difficult if his wife passes away first. But she's got the extra lock on the situation, making it very hard to break free in any kind of a safe way. Because they have to recognize how fragile their physical bodies are and how much external care they need, what needs to be set up, and all the cooperative components all around that situation that need to be in play in order for it to be reasonable at all for him to move anywhere near us. And he's got to recognize that it will never be, that idealistic thing that he's got in his mind. We can move him to someplace maybe closer to us and maybe with a little more outside space for him to sit under a tree. And, it's too bad that Fairwinds does not have memory care, because I think that would have been good enough. They have housekeepers. They don't need to be perhaps as intensely washed and watched and cleaned and scrubbed and whatever. Just as long as they are cared for and watched over and somebody else is cooking and they are not allowed to try to wander away and drive or that sort of thing, I would be satisfied with all of that. But they don't understand their limitations. It would need to be a place where they're locked in, where they can't just wander away, because they will. I'm sorry. I did not mean to take so much time there, but my own specific life bleeds into this. You have to somehow translate the meaning of all this abstraction into the reality of your life and your relationships, and the meaning of how to move forward any particular situation. We've got all kinds of situations going on the ground right now, having to do with jobs and real estate and dreams and possibilities and moving parts and understandings. There are all kinds of stuff going on, including this conundrum with the last living parent of the four that, my spouse and I share. Mr. Starchild and I share. So, in conclusion, I'm going to say, I believe that this clearer understanding of the abstract core nature of the paradigm that and you got to understand also, when you understand the paradigm, you understand how malleable the paradigm is. It's going to support you, whatever it is you believe. So if you believe something different than this, you actually are going to get some reinforcement. There's some reinforcement that you get back that seems to agree with your negative viewpoint or whatever. The universe is very supportive. So just decide to be supported in the best possible way. Be cautioned by that story of how bad it can actually get if you let your Wetiko side have its day. It can get as bad as a Holocaust. Just remember that. So know that the stakes are very high. But that doesn't mean keep your eye on the darkness. It means keep your eye on the light, because the stakes are very high. Every rat hole is bottomless, and you will never get to the bottom of whatever dark thing you decide to go chase. That conspiracy or that there is no end. That momentum will go on and on and on and on and on until you're left either with Europe in ruins, or maybe it ends up with you as a mother who has now drowned all her children in order to save them from this horrible, horrible, bottomless pit of a world that we live in. Because it can look like that. But it's only the momentum of your own mind. Don't go into places in your mind without the light of your inner being with you, because only with the light of your inner being are you looking at the actual truth. Otherwise, you're looking at escape that looks like what it looks like without your inner being, and of course it looks godless. Duh. So just don't go there. Know that who you really are is a positive person, a positive being, an eternal positive being. And anything else you're experiencing just has to do with the experience of life. It may be pointing to a condition that you would like to have changed. But I promise you, you're not going to be able to change it to a positive from that negative position that you are in. You won't be getting the right impulses. You will not change it to a positive. You'll change it, but it won't end up being any good. It has to have the right seed. The intentional seed at the heart of all of these things has to be clear, has to be pure. The spirit has to be right. The spirit first, spirit first, spirit first, spirit first. It's because we live in a vibrational universe. And so what we can feel as real and correct, vibrationally, we can feel it as a spirit, as a vibration, it's an emotion, actually. But the emotion is not just a hard, I've got my zappers, I have read what's going on out there, and I grok that it is bad. It's not like that. The negative emotion is only a disparity between your localized individual thought and what your source is thinking at the same time. It's a difference in resonant frequencies, and that difference, that discord, that offness, that non-resonance is registering in you as negative emotion. And that's all well and fine. There's nothing wrong with your equipment. You registered a negative emotion. That's totally fine. It means you've identified something that is not in alignment with you, or the thought that you took about it is not in alignment, or whatever. The point is, sit back, rest with it. Do not act, do not act, do not act on your negative emotions. Do not act until you find your way back to your positive self. And then you can go from a positive, good-humored place, go fix the problem that was identified to you with that negative emotion. Just don't act in your negative emotion. Because at that moment, when you are in a state of negative being, you are facing backwards. There's only two directions you can face, forward or backward. If you're in a state of positive emotion, you are facing forward, go ahead and act. If you're in a state of negative emotion, you're facing backward. Now, there's nothing else going wrong. Everything else is as it. So what you're witnessing, you don't like it, that's all well and fine, it's all true. Everything is in order. Just don't act until you flip it back around, because that negative self is not really you. And the impulses you're getting from source from that position are distorted. You're crossing your own energy stream. You're allowing demons to drive your vehicle. You are creating Shiva and Loki energy. All kinds of ways to say this. That's who we are. That's how it works. You get what you think about, whether you want it or not. So interesting. So we'll be back tomorrow doing the same thing again. I enjoy doing it. It's my own personal meditation. I also have other issues. I had picked up the game of golf, and I was quite proud of, some of the things that were going on with golf and me. But my husband has thrown his freaking back out, and he can't hardly sit in a car for longer than a minute. He certainly can't just walk around a golf course and play 9 holes. His back will be killing him halfway through. So I haven't been playing golf. And I hope that it doesn't end up going by the wayside, because I was enjoying that. For a while, I was really intensely into the guitar. I bought myself a beautiful Gibson Hummingbird, and I had it modified, changed the pick guard to this beautiful hummingbird motif that sort of mimics the Gibson Hummingbird one. It's really cool. Made out of mother of pearl and rosewood and whatnot. And now I don't play the guitar anymore. I was all into it for a minute. Now I don't play the guitar. Golf could end up being the same thing. Who am I? Probably is not going to be the same thing. I was about to say it could be, but I don't think it will be. I think I've got a positive momentum going here that's going to last me for a while. So anyway, go forth and deal with your own life. Do the best you can. Do the best you can to know who you are. Play with the world. When you play, the world achieves more of a clay-like consistency, and you can work with it more. It becomes lighter and more malleable, more everything. When you look at it darkly, it sort of locks into its ominous composition. Play goes to clay. So do the best you can. And I'll be back tomorrow to help you understand yourselves and this world that much better. In the meantime, I'll be doing the same thing. And so until tomorrow, please, blessed, dear friend, may the source be with you.